Hi, I'm Rajinder Hans and you're with me on tvsarawak.com. Here are the headlines for today. Blind children should be given equal opportunities. Sarawak's crime index for the first 9 months of this year fell 6.84%. 85% of schools have crime prevention club. Children should not be deprived of education, whether blind or not, so they can have a better life. Stating this, Women Welfare and Family Development Minister Dato' Fatimah Abdullah said, blind children should be given equal opportunities in education and skills training. When opening the annual 2014 Open House cum Charity Food Sale organised by Sarawak Society for the Blind, Sibu Division, at its centre, she said that the blind can earn a decent living for themselves and their families with skills training. Dato' Fatimah said because blind students were given education, some of them went on to pursue higher education and became successful people. She commended SSB for its commitment and caring for the visually handicapped or blind to provide them with skills training, giving them a better quality of life. She praised the people, especially the Chinese here, who were not only hardworking and giving priority to their children's education, but were also caring for the unfortunate, such as the blind. Dato' Fatimah said the government, in caring for the handicapped or OKU, including the blind, had increased their monthly allowance to 50 ringgit from next year as announced in the Budget 2015. Sarawak's crime index for the first 9 months of this year fell 6.84% compared to the corresponding period last year, said Malaysia Crime Prevention Foundation Sarawak Branch Chairman Dato' Muhammad Naruddin Majais. Dato' Naruddin said the decline was based on cases reported to the police and he did not rule out unreported cases that involved petty crime. He added that with the Urban Transformation Centre, waiting time could be reduced as there are many officers there. Earlier in his speech, Dato' Naruddin said a total of 6,838 cases were reported between January and September last year, while 6,378 cases were reported during the same period this year. About 85% of schools in the country have their own crime prevention club to help keep students off crime, said Malaysia Crime Prevention Foundation Vice Chairman Tan Sri Dato' Lee Lam Thai. This was translated into 2,171 secondary schools and 4,305 primary schools, he said. He added that 6,476 CPCs involved 436,580 students throughout the country, and of these schools, 313 have set up their websites. Dato' Lee, however, considered that over 40% of these schools have inactive CPCs, which he said could be that the headmaster has not been given the directive yet. Moving on to the Malaysian news. The second Agriculture, Marketing and Investment mission to Dubai, led by the Minister of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry, Dato' Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, is targeting potential sales value of 45 million ringgit. Agriculture Consul of the Ministry of Agriculture and Agro-Based Industry to Dubai, Tuan Kamarul Arif Tuan Soh, said the target could be achieved based on the positive response received at the first AMIM last year and the high demand for agricultural products in the United Arab Emirates. He said that in 2013, the mission recorded sales of 20 million ringgit through memorandums of understanding, while 40 million ringgit were from follow-up sales. Tuan Kamarul said exports of Malaysian food products to the UAE in 2013 amounted to 390 million ringgit, and he was confident this would increase to close to 500 million ringgit this year, considering that for the first 6 months of this year alone, the amount hit 295 million ringgit. Higher learning institutions in the country will be given flexibility in implementing the new qualifying conditions for the Malaysian University English Test, which will start next year. Second Education Minister Datuk Seri Idris Jusoh said the intake of the students to these institutions was subject to approval by the Senate of the respective universities. Therefore, implementing the new conditions could be to the discretion of the Senate. Datuk Seri Idris said the implementation would go on, but flexibility given now considering the current situation. When tabling Budget 2015, Prime Minister Datuk Seri Najib Tun Razak announced that beginning next year, the general condition for student intake to the IPTA of at least Band 1 in MUET would be raised so as to increase their self-confidence and skills to communicate in the English language. The new minimum qualification for arts and social science studies is raised to Band 2, while for studies in the fields of science, technology, engineering and mathematics, it is raised to Band 3, and Band 4 for law and medicine. The Angkatan Koperasi Kebangsaan Malaysia Berhad Foundation has allocated 4.8 million ringgit for education loans to its staff and the public to empower human resource in the country. Angkasa President Abdul Fattah Abdullah said the loan facility would be given to those who wanted to pursue their studies at the first degree level and higher. He said that Angkasa has given loans to 496 people, including 275 who have completed their studies at the degree level, with an allocation of about 4.8 million ringgit. He said the fund covered studies in various fields such as business and finance, with an estimated 18,000 ringgit per person until 2020. Abdul Fattah said the facility provided more opportunities for people who wanted to pursue their studies without adding to their financial burden, which provides interest-free loans to its borrowers. Many landlords would have experienced unpaid electricity bills by their tenants, leaving them with no choice but to settle the amount, sometimes with a fine too. Tenaga Nasional Berhad has introduced the MyTNB application, which allows landlords to track their tenants' monthly consumption and bills on their smartphones. Its Senior General Manager, Kamaliah Abdul Kadir, said landlords should first subscribe to TNB's e-services at www.eservices.tnb.com.my. Kamaliah noted that e-services and MyTNB app were aimed at preventing more cases of landlords being burdened by unpaid bills from their rogue tenants. To date, around 600,000 account holders have subscribed to TNB's e-services and about 18,000 have downloaded the MyTNB app, available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store. However, Kamaliah said this is just a small portion of the total account holders, which stood at over 8 million as of August in the peninsula. Local advertising expenditure is expected to continue growing slowly but steadily for the rest of the year as advertisers gear up for year-end festivities and celebrations. Association of Accredited Advertising Agents Malaysia President Datuk Johnny Moon, however, said that 2014 ADEX growth could have been more robust if not for the two Malaysia Airlines tragedies earlier this year. Year-to-date September, ADEX for the country grew 9.5% to 10.4 billion ringgit from 9.5 billion ringgit in the previous corresponding period, according to Nielsen Malaysia. ADEX growth was led by cinema, pay TV and in-store media, which rose 29.2%, 15.2% and 14.1% respectively. Ad spend for newspapers and free-to-air television both rose more than 6%. The product and service categories with the highest ad spend in the first half of the year were local government institutions, women's facial care products, hair care products, mobile line services and dental care products. The top 3 advertisers were Unilever, Nestle and Colgate-Palmolive. Moving on to the global front, Brazil's leftist president Dilma Rousseff narrowly won re-election on Sunday after convincing voters that her party's strong record of reducing poverty over the last 12 years was more important than a recent economic slump. After one of the closest, most divisive campaigns in Brazil in decades, Rousseff won 51.6% of votes in a runoff against centrist opposition leader Aécio Neves, who won 48.4% with more than 99% of the votes tallied. Voting was peaceful and Brazil's robust democracy is free of the political violence that mars some other countries in Latin America. The result means another 4 years in power for the Workers' Party, which since 2003 has virtually transformed Brazil, lifting 40 million from poverty, reducing unemployment to record lows, and making big inroads against hunger in what remains one of the world's most unequal countries. The last UK base in Afghanistan has been handed over to the control of Afghan security forces, ending British combat operations in the country. The Union flag was lowered at Camp Bastion, while Camp Leatherneck, the adjoining US base, was also handed over to Afghan control. Prime Minister David Cameron said Britain would never forget those who had died serving their country. The number of deaths of British troops throughout the conflict stands at 453. The death toll among US military personnel stands at 2,349. The UK forces were part of US-led coalition which toppled the ruling Taliban in 2001 following the 9/11 attacks in the US. China's fight against deeply ingrained corruption will never end, the top official in charge of tackling graft said before a meeting intended to clean up business in the world's second-largest economy. Since President Xi Jinping launched his high-profile campaign against corruption upon assuming office last year, senior officials, including powerful former domestic security chief Zhou Yongkang, have been removed from their posts and put under investigation. The campaign for clean government will never be concluded. Wang Zishan, head of Central Commission for Discipline Inspection, was quoted as saying by the official Xinhua news agency. New Indonesian President Joko Widodo unveiled his cabinet Sunday, which included the country's first female foreign minister after a lengthy delay caused by anti-corruption authorities' concerns about several candidates. Key figures include Retno Marsudi as Foreign Minister, Bambang Brojonegoro as Finance Minister, and Sofian Jalil as Chief Economics Minister. It included 8 women, a higher number than in the previous cabinet. The 34-member cabinet is broadly split between professionals and party politicians, as Widodo seeks to balance a pledge to pick the best people in their fields with pressure to reward parties who backed him at July's election. The team of ministers will be key in helping Widodo, known as Jokowi, push through much-needed reforms to boost Southeast Asia's top economy and help the country's poorest, as he faces stiff opposition in parliament from a coalition that backed his election rival. Nearly 1 in 5 banks subjected to a crunch financial health check by the European Central Bank has failed the test, though no major banks were among them, according to official data on Sunday. The audit was aimed at preventing a recurrence of a single currency area's debilitating financial crisis. That goal has become even more important in recent weeks as the Eurozone is seen to be again tottering on the edge of recession. There are rising fears of deflation and economic growth in key states. France and Italy is stalling. Even Germany, which had been doing well with exports, is looking at slowing growth on the back of weak investment. A total 25 of the 130 banks flunked the audit, the ECB said, adding that the worst results were concentrated in Italy, where some 9 banks failed, as well as 3 in Greece and 3 in Cyprus. The banks showed a combined capital shortfall of 25 billion euros as at the end of 2013. 12 of the 25 failing banks, however, have already covered their capital shortfalls this year, raising their capital by 15 billion euros, the ECB said. Banks with shortfalls must prepare capital plans within 2 weeks and have up to 9 months to cover the capital gaps. As part of the audit, the ECB reviewed the quality of bank assets to make sure they were properly valued. It also identified 136 billion euros in troubled assets known as non-performing loans. That's all for today. I'm Rajinder Hans. Have a great day today.